Love is our true divine nature, and our heart serves as the intersection of the spiritual and physical, connecting our soul with our body as the conduit for anchoring our divinity onto the earth plane. Embodying our divinity is the key to our ascension and to manifesting our highest destiny in this life. The teachings of the heart are alchemy. Join spiritual mentor and channel Jennifer Spohr each week on a sacred journey to lift the veil to remembering your divinity and meet other beautiful souls who are living the path of the awakened heart. Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. I am really delighted to welcome as a guest today Olivia Ashley. She is the host of Intuition Unlocked, a top 5% globally ranked podcast and a wellness and intuitive guide who helps busy, overwhelmed women reconnect with their intuition, reclaim their brilliance, and create grounded confidence in their lives. I actually had the honor of guesting on Olivia's amazing podcast earlier this year, and we just had such a deep, enriching conversation. And so I'm exceptionally excited to have her here to share her with you all today. So, welcome.
Thank you, Jennifer, for having me. I'm really delighted to be here and honored to be here. I love these types of conversations and spaces that are being created through podcasting around these types of topics. It gets me really inspired and excited to just know we are connecting so many brilliant humans and people and hopefully supporting them in some way if they found themselves here.
Yeah, absolutely. And we really are living in a time where being tapped into your highest self isn't a nice to have. It really truly is fundamental to navigating all of the rapid changes that are happening, right? Like not just within ourselves, but in the world too. It can be so easy to get swept up in everything if we're not fortified, right? In our sense of self.
Exactly. I think what I've been seeing and what really has motivated me to begin speaking on these topics, to begin being more open and sharing is the both my own experience with moving through sensitivities and health issues and burnout and numbing, all those things that I think our culture kind of just allows and kind of expects of us all to move into, and really being able to notice and go, wait, there's another way. There's another path forward for us to be able to reconnect to ourselves, to refortify, really find that within ourselves, and to know that it's okay to feel, it's okay to move through hard times, it's okay to choose different than societal expectations and follow your own path. It's not something we're often shown, but I think more and more to right the imbalance, to right this distortion that many of us are both seeing on the planet but feeling internally. That's where I see our heart, our intuition, this connection being that anchor, being that compass that allows us to move through life with more trust and confidence in ourselves and write a new story, because that's what I really am seeing and sensing, is that like we there needs to be this shift, and that is probably going to take another 20 to 100 plus years, and then it will shift again. But it starts with us. It starts with each of us saying, is this working? Maybe it is for you. Maybe you like how life looks, and that's great. You're following and you're listening. But I think more and more of us have realized that this doesn't always feel good. And so, what's a different way I can approach this? What's an alternative I can attempt to follow and listen to? And for me in my journey, when I look through everything I've done and experienced, my intuition and that connection just to my higher self and the unseen is really the core crux of like, oh, I've got it. It's good.
Yeah. I'd love for you to share with us more about your own journey of what led you to this path, right? So not only did you, become fortified in your intuitive self and knowing, but you actually felt guided to teach this to other people. So I'd love to hear more about that.
Absolutely. And this is a long one, but I'll condense it. And I would say I'm still on the journey, right? I always want to caveat, I have not made it. I have not gotten there. I think I will make it once I've passed away and I get to review my life and go, wow, look at all those cool things. Until then, I am still growing, evolving in the midst of it. But I feel so much better at this time and space. And when I reflect on myself and my story, I think it really helps to share that I came in just being this really sensitive explorer would be the best way to describe it. I had a lot of sensitivities, but I also had this like need to explore this wildness inside of me that I wanted to see what this world had to offer. And I wanted to be independent and choose it for myself. My dad always would share a story of me being two and him telling me I needed to go to sleep. And I turned around with this just like anger in my face, like, how dare you? And he's like, I literally stepped back, like you became in control. And he realized he had to like, oh, this is a whole different being I'm working with. And I think I always had that. But as I moved into my teenage years, that sensitivity became really strong. I come from a line of my dad was quite psychic. His mother was a psychic medium operating in St. Louis. And so I heard stories, and my dad was very curious about the supernatural, but it came from a very fierce state. But so I had experiences. I was having different things happening, but it felt not safe. And I didn't really know what to do about that. Coupled with being a hormonal teenager and my upbringing, while very great, I felt very isolated, confused, didn't know who I was, dealing with health issues. And so I did what most, I think, teenagers, maybe not most, but some do, is numbed. I used substances. I started drinking at a young age, going through relationships and doing anything I could to not feel. And that put me in a really dark place. I didn't have guidance, I didn't have support. And yet I look back and I've made a lot of peace with that of knowing, wow, if I wouldn't have moved through that, I don't know if I would have gotten to where I'm at now. And so that experience kind of went through my entire teenage years into my early adulthood. And I couldn't quite find a way out on my own. And so what I take meaning is I became pregnant at 23, unexpectedly, surprisingly, had just graduated college, and it reoriented my world. Thankfully, it was with a partner who I'd known since high school. We had been together, mostly together, on and off, and we just sunk into that experience of, okay, we are changing, we are choosing, and I don't think I had the fortitude in myself, at least at that time, to have made the choices I was kind of forced to make to be a mother, to be sober, to look at myself. And that birthing experience connected me to spirituality. That was the first time I really understood this is what they talk about when you hear like spirit and connection and being spiritual. It was a very outside of myself thing that pregnancy brought it into my body. And so I will fast forward in the sense of from that point to where I'm at now, I had pretty much a decade of unraveling, of allowing myself to slowly and carefully tend to everything within. I went through yoga training, became a Reiki master, studied herbalism, did Akashic record, like worked with Akashic records, began doing readings. I had two more babies and currently one on the way. And every time I go through that experience of motherhood, it's another layer that gets chipped away. It's another growth point for me to evolve and look. But I'd say I'd say motherhood inspired me to this. That would probably be the core. I don't know if I would have chosen it. I hope I would have at some point. But honestly, I think I was so in the depths of struggle, I didn't even know that this was a possibility. And everything you move through, I think becoming a mother in that aspect. And I'd say I've really noticed that both on that spectrum of birth and death are those great transformers in life, and I've experienced both, and I've never been the same person after. And that was my story, but I think there's a lot weaved within it that I've learned, I've picked up on that brought me to where I'm at now of wanting to share, of going and saying, wow, there's so much out there that is not being shared, not being talked about, or maybe it is, but it's in quiet rooms or between two people. And I um, really have taken the effort in it upon myself to create a space specifically through my podcast to say, hey, I've got you. Let's talk about this. How do we move through this? Both my experience, but also ground in teachings and be a guide of sorts for others to have a mirror put up to themselves and resonate with what really lands and let go of what doesn't. But it's I think it's just such an important conversation and topic to share stories and look at these types of things, not with being an expert by any means, but by being a human and saying life is messy and we all come from different spaces, and yet we each have this for like this knowing within ourselves, this connection that is possible.
Absolutely. And as you're, describing your journey of transformation, I can feel, sense how profound that was. That must have been for you.
Yes, yes. It definitely, I think what's hard when you tell your story is you've moved through it so deeply, right? I think when I look back, there's been so many layers. I feel like I've lived so many lifetimes within this lifetime that it all played a role. And yet, there's also this aspect of where can I release? I think I've noticed we tend to want to cling to certain aspects or parts of ourselves, or we get stuck in it. And in reality, it's it's like how can we witness and bear witness to what we're moving through and then not hold it too tightly? How can we let that aspect go and continue to grow? Do you know what I'm saying? I think
Absolutely. I
yeah.
think that is deeply connected to our relationship to everything and how we define everything, right? Like, what you were sharing about your journey around the importance of having a platform to talk about it, right? And how important it is for us to talk about our experiences and share our experiences. We're literally taught the opposite of that. Our society discourages transparency and discourages authenticity. You can see how deeply rooted it is in our medical system, in our education system, um, and even in therapeutic environments, right? And we are literally the opposite of that. Like we're literally created to live our truth, right? To be transparent, to live our values, and to share all of that. And it's really in the sharing of that, like you said, that it it brings us closer together. It helps us to recognize our interconnectedness. I mean, I could probably say, right, just like pretty much everything you've learned, do the opposite of that. And some people have been very fortunate, right, to grow up in environments or be exposed to environments where they've grown up understanding a lot of this, but it's certainly more the exception. And so, just I feel like we're collectively going through an awakening right now, humanity, in of itself. And really, the greatest way to navigate that, I believe, is to stay rooted in your sense of self, in your intuition, and not just recognizing that, but having the willingness to follow it and stay devoted to it, which is something else I'd love for you to share is, beyond the catalyzing transformations, how do you stay in that as your lived day-to-day experience? Because I find that that is really where the magic is, right? It's in those everyday moment to moment conscious choices.
Absolutely. And I loved everything you said. We're not set up to thrive. Some people can, some people really do, and that's great. But I think a lot of us who especially were more sensitive, especially I think we've been here before in past lifetimes or things, or our mission is just here to help support. And we have to kind of choose different and think different, and that's okay. We all walk our path. And so for me, I first off will say I've noticed that I need what is it called? Foundational practices. Foundational practices that when life is messy, when weird things are happening, that I know to just feel like a good human, to fill my cup, these things help me. And so that looks different for everyone. But for me, I've been journaling since I was in fifth grade. Like writing and just expressing, letting it out has been a core tenet of flowing, that release. Because that's what I see a lot too is we are so in our mental state. We are running from one thing to the other. Our nervous system is so dysregulated these days, even if you're doing your best. And so journaling and then other practices to help me shift. I think of like a dog shaking, moving my body. So that's sometimes walks feel really good and great. Other times it's a workout or a yoga. It's being flexible enough too, but I know that like this is my go-to video or this is my go-to thing I can do. And it's both having enough variety that keeps me interested or allows me to flex with what I'm moving through. And then also being really rooted enough to know, these are my things. This is what feels good. And I think always having an aspect of connection to myself, connection to something else has become a daily ritual. It's necessary. It's how it resets me. So that can look like just 5-minute meditations where I drop in and then I ask, what do I need to know? Or oracle cards where a deck sticks out and I pull through one and check in on that in that space. But I'd say as much as those rituals are important and as much as those practices are important, I think it's also about just being able to flex with the seasons of your life. And so not being so rigid with those practices that you can't adjust, or if you don't do something for a couple days because life is ongoing or sickness happens, that you just stop, right? That I think there's some of us have that want to just okay, I am fulfilled if I do these 5 things and then yes, check. It's cultivating a relationship that doesn't feel like you have to force it. It actually feels very comfortable that you can connect to. And I think grounded and rooted is going to feel different in your body for each of you. And so also understanding what does that mean to you? What does that actually feel like? How can I cultivate aspects of my life that bring that forward? And as much as those practices and rituals and the flow can help, I think it's overall, is your life set up to support you? Are there like, what are the things that you're struggling with? Or are there spaces where you're just feeling drained and it's emptying you and or you're really struggling and coming up against it? I would also challenge people to become more of their sovereign, right, beings that they can step in and start to make changes if needed. I think being rooted and grounded goes beyond just the daily things because if you are inherently unhappy or things are not right in your life, those practices can help, but ultimately I think it's also about really recognizing is the way your life is set up and the choices you're making, the habits you're doing actually good for you. It's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay to like have things that aren't perfect, but I think ultimately it should feel like you are here and your life is set up that in a way that aligns with your values, aligns with your needs. And that might look like sacrifices or hard choices, but that I think will go even a further or far, that will get you farther than just, I think, the daily pieces too.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack from what you just the last minute or two. So I'm like trying to remember everything I want to say. So going back, right, to what you were talking about in terms of the importance of daily practices, absolutely. I refer to them as embodiment practices because I believe also, like you do, in the importance of having that daily foundation. And I know you also alluded to this, not treating them like tasks. These practices, right, really need to serve as the basis for transcending into that moment to moment living, right? So, how are these daily practices that we're choosing aiding us and supporting us in evolving into living in that grounded state, moment to moment, fully present throughout our days? And again, not treating them like a task, not treating them like I'm shoving this into my calendar and checking it off as a task, not just doing the practice, but allowing yourself to feel in your body. So even if it's journaling as an example, right? Like, we talk about the importance of all of this and with manifesting as well. And a lot of people actually teach this stuff from the mind and not from the body, right? So when you're journaling, as an example, I believe it's important to pay attention to how that feels in your body as you're journaling, not just
Yes.
being aware of what you're bringing forward, but where is that residing in your body, right?
Yes, it makes me think of, I think there's a few different ways you can use it. And what I'm seeing is when I journal, for me, it's a release. And so sometimes I can't even get into my body until I've had a release. And so I think there's an aspect of what are practices that get that
Yes.
over mental stimulation moved and shifted. And then what are the ways that you can now drop? Okay, I'm more settled. I feel more, excuse me, more safe. And now I can really connect and pull. But I really see that, at least for myself, with how many roles I shift and the things that I'm moving through, I need an intentional moment to shift into the next state that I want to be in. And when I don't do that, oof, my everything kind of starts to crumble. And what I keep hearing is your why. I think having an understanding your why do you want to be grounded? Like, why, like, what is inspiring you? What is your why in life? Like, not that you have to have that big, grand why, but it comes back to why are you doing any of this? Why should you do that practice? Or why are you taking the time to do it? And when you can unravel and understand that why, you're going to be much more both motivated and inspired to actually do these practices, to do the things that make you feel good, or whatever that reason and that why is, and stick with it. Because I think a lot of us want the quick fix and, well, just get me to here, or I want to manifest that big thing, but we're not even aware of our own bodies, aware of our own inner voice, aware of what's kind of happening inside. And so coming back to that why feels important at this time.
I love that you bring up the why. It's so true. And through doing that, right, then we also reach a state of consciousness where we're gaining deeper understanding of our actual why. Uh, money's coming forward as a prime example of this, right? It's like, you want to bring in a certain amount of money every month, especially as an entrepreneur, healer, whatnot. And, what's the reason for all of that? Because it's bringing you a feeling or it's bringing you something that you believe that you want that's outside of yourself. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with having a lot of money. There's nothing wrong with wanting to take care of yourself. And that's all natural, but it's understanding with your why. where it's coming from. Is it coming from your mind? Is it coming from your heart? Is it coming from a space of that you think you need to show up a different way in the world? So I love that you bring that up because it's so important for sustainable transformation and ascension. It's so important for us to be transparent with ourselves, right? And when we understand our deeper motives and where they're really coming from, that's really the paradigm shifter.
Yes, that is what allows you to start to I think I am like, I see many layers. It opens the door to being more authentic. And when you're more authentic and that means you know yourself more. You understand who you are at a deeper level. Does not mean you have clarity on exactly everything you're going to do and now everything is magical and together, but that authenticity really builds trust, builds confidence, builds resilience because when you are unwavering you can go against quite a bit of stuff, right? We can navigate, we can make choices that maybe others look down upon or don't agree with, and yet that's not for them to worry about. It's you need to take care of you. And if you don't understand your why, you don't know your values, you don't have that connection to yourself or those practices that anchor or even understand what that feels like, we're going to be much more susceptible to external influences, to just kind of keeping up with the Joneses or maintaining our comfortability because that feels most right. And when I think to my story, I felt so in the dark because I did not understand that. I was attempting to fit in the molds that were laid out to me for me, and my whole soul and body just went no. But I had no power. I was young. I didn't feel like I had a choice and it broke my spirit. And that's where I'm get so excited and motivated to share these pieces because of how much my life changed, how much I changed, um, and became I want to say whole, healed. There's still so much more to uncover, but I am resilient. I feel like I can weather any storm and move through that. I can show up in a room and be confident in who I am, no matter the topic. I don't need to be involved, but I can listen and understand. And I know I have that truth center, that scale that says, is this my truth? Is that their truth? Does this work for me? Because I think there's a lot of truth. I think there's a lot of things that can be true for one person and might not be true for another. And you need to find your truth center and let that go into exploration. Be curious. Where does that take you? Because I promise you, your life's going to feel a lot better, even if you go through some like upheaval and things get shifted out of your life. If you are living and choosing from that space, than from just accepting status quo and like any state you're in doesn't have to be that state. We always have a choice. We can always shift. So, yeah, that authenticity and that alignment. I mean, I think we all talk about these same words, but what does that actually look like, mean, and how do we do it,
What
right?
does it look like lived as your lived
Yes.
experience, right? I love that you bring up truth because I teach and talk about that all the time. The importance of being tapped into what your truth is and how it feels in your body. So, not just as an awareness, right? And this is not a belief that we're talking about. This is a knowing, an innate knowing of your truth and what your truth is and then translating that into lived experience through your body. And I think, because we keep coming back to it, right? It's like transcending those constructs is one of the greatest challenge because it's true. So much of how we've come into the world and been taught in living is a direct inversion to how we're organically created, right? To live and to exist in the world. And we are living in a time where there is no playbook. There's no playbook. And it's because you already have it within.
Yeah, so that's what gets me so jazzed is if you're unsure or you're just like, okay, I don't know where to start, or like I've been on this, but I still feel confused. I've been really seeing and hearing a lot. people wanting clarity. Just give me the roadmap, give me the clarity. I just want the clarity. And I really see that more as a symptom, not like the root. Like the lack of clarity is that is showcasing something's out of alignment and such. And so how can you find that? You come back to yourself. You come back to that intuition. And what does that take? It's quite simple. It's again kind of what we said. It's making sure you have some space in your day to settle, to breathe, to be like, I'm Olivia. I'm here. I'm okay. All is well, or whatever that is, or not well, but I have the moment to check in, and then just getting curious, starting to learn your body. How does it feel? What does your energy feel like when it sends you signals? What is that? How does that come forward? Like when you're hungry or you're tired or something's aching, they're messages. They're messages to tell you something. And that's one form. You're going to have messages that are coming through other forms. And so getting familiar with yourself, it starts with you, and then getting curious and asking. What is this? What do I need to know? What's here for me? And be opened. That's where I think we maybe want to just go at it alone, but in reality, there's so much support. There's so many beings, energies, frequencies around us that we're constantly picking up on. And a lot of them, like I'm looking at my plant behind me, is like, I want to connect with you, or I have a message for you, or I'm here for you. And it's how do we start to be open to both asking, but then receiving the signs, looking at the synchronicities. And if you don't know what the next step is, literally ask please show me the next step. What is there out there for me? And then listen, notice a song, a book, a friend. You'll notice it feels different when you hear it or you see it or it lands, and trust. See where that takes you. I think listening to your intuition and building that resilience, all the things we talked about, it's a practice. It takes time, yet there's always something there ready to be noticed or gained.
Absolutely. And a couple things you said, earlier you talk about you referenced healing and wholeness, right? And we are already whole. We came into the world whole. I believe it's that healing, the word healing that we use is really the journey of rediscovery to that wholeness and to that wholeness as something that is lived,
That's so
right?
interesting. I love that.
Because we also because of conditioning, again, we confuse, which this is also connected to what you bring up about clarity, right? Which I agree with you wholeheartedly. Clarity serves a purpose and clarity is important. But a lot of people have been conditioned to believe, especially in the information age that we're living in, they confuse clarity and information with solution or information with action. And it's what you do with that clarity. It's how you translate that clarity into a lived experience that brings you the shift that you're seeking, which then brings you into that paradigm shift of transcending that construct of looking outside yourself for information and answers, right? It brings you into that space where you're more in your body and more of being tuned into that intuitive voice.
Yes. And I'd say the first things I often see we need to start to recognize is just where are you now? Like, how are you doing right now? If you're being completely honest with yourself, what does that feel like? What are, you know, checking in? Because I think sometimes we can't even, we want all the solutions, like you said, we want the information, we want the roadmap, we want the clarity right now. But even say that just drops in and you were given that today. Are you in a space? Are you feeling whole enough, resilient enough, aligned enough to receive it, accept it? Is your frequency and your ability and capacity to show up in that way actually there? And I think oftentimes, if we don't have something in our life, it's because we're not quite ready for it. There's a block, there's a reason, there's the thing. And it's not because the universe is being cruel and like withholding it. It's more us having to uncover a little bit more of learning, working through fears, working through limiting beliefs, making choices. Like you said, we have to make the choices. I keep seeing this really intense, like you said it, like we're in the information age, we're having this onslaught, we're on social media, we're digesting and receiving so much. And I think some things, some periods of my life of what has helped me so much is not being on social media, is having the space to just be in my life, to feel into what I'm doing. And that might feel self-centered or, odd, but in reality, those are the moments where I've had the most growth. I've had the most clarity for myself because I got to tune out most of the world. I don't watch the news. I really cultivate a space where I'm aware of what's happening. I don't want to be blindsided, but yet have created a container that really supports me. So how can you do that for you? I think those aspects will help you shift from just this survival mode or this digestion mode or the fear of missing out into, wait, there's nothing to miss out on because I'm already here and I have
Yeah.
myself.
And all that we're talking about today, I feel guided to say this applies to anyone at any perceived stage on their journey, right? I have been consciously focused on this for over 15 years, right? And I think you said it at the beginning of our conversation. It's an ongoing journey. You're still doing it. None of us are perfect, and there is no utopic destination. We're always evolving. And so all of what we're talking about today, I feel are all very foundational pieces. And no matter how long someone has been consciously focused on their ascension journey, who's listening can take what we've brought forward today and look at, and ask themselves, how can I apply this to where I am, right, on my ascension journey today? Olivia, in closing, what else are you feeling intuitively guided to bring forward in this now moment?
That's a really good question. Let me feel in. Immediately, I heard the word courage, that walking this path, that showing up for yourself, to put yourself first, to listen, to explore the unseen or explore different ways of being really takes courage. And courage starts with your heart. Courage is that space that's cultivated within you, and no one needs to fully understand it outside of yourself. And so, as we navigate the landscape of the world, of uncertainty, of change, discomfort, growth, all those things, and or wanting to call other things in, can you have the courage to really listen to then and take aligned action to be your true authentic self and allow any fears or doubts or things that have been stopping you? Because I can sense in those who are listening that you're ready. You've been calling it forward and yet you're still questioning, but why isn't it here? I'm still in this state and I want to be in that state. It's about starting to step into getting really real with yourself, getting really honest, and from that joyful, curious state, playful state, to not feel, to not look down upon anything, right? We all make our choices. We're not perfect. That is, I think, exactly why we came to be humans, to experience all of those. But you always have that ability to shift. That is always a gift offered to you. It's, are you courageous enough to listen and actually activate the things that you need to maybe do, or your body's craving, or you've been sitting on but not doing? Just, can you do it and do it without fear, and learn, because the next right step comes when you take that first step, right? It will make more sense, and you just need to do this first right thing, whatever that is, whatever that feels like for you.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that wisdom. And for those who are feeling called to connect further with you, where is the best place for them to go?
Yes, I think the best place would be my website. You can access my podcast, you can book a reading with me, you can connect, see where my Instagram is, and that is www excuse me, www.olivia-ashley.com, and that will get you everywhere. My podcast is Intuition Unlocked. You can find that anywhere, but yeah, I'd love to hear from you, have you join our community and or listen. And if you're really wanting more support, there's so much content there and places that you can just delight and dive into, and hopefully will expand on this episode and get you more insight.
Absolutely. Olivia, what a blessing and a treat to have you. And uh, there were just so many opportunities where we could go so much deeper in our conversation, but I feel like we had a really amazing conversation today, one that I know that anyone listening, no matter where they are and what season they're in on their journey, can take what we shared today and apply that into lived experience in their own life, which I feel like is a theme that we kept circling back around to. So thank you so, so much for all that you do, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. It was such an honor. Thank you to everyone listening for just being here and being a part of this space and for all you do, Jennifer. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Path of the Awakened Heart. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts or pathoftheawakenedheart.com so you never miss an episode. To learn more about living with an awakened heart and navigating your ascension journey, visit me at jenniferspore.com.